Hey, this is Andy with Rocket City Pinball. Today, at long last, I'm going to show you how to install the X-Jet mod for Uncanny X-Men. So when you order this part, you'll get the jet itself. You can get it lit or unlit. Most people generally want it lit. You'll get a bulb to splice in for the lighting. It comes with your dynamic dust cloud there that it's perched on, so it looks like it's taking off or landing. You get your choice of landing platform. I did this color landing platform because it kind of matches the style of the platform that they used in the art. But some folks also wanted something that looked a little more realistic, so I have a concrete colored one with yellow and white. So you get your choice of those when you order. It's pretty easy to install. You just need a couple of tools you should have. Two Phillips head screwdrivers. You can probably get it done with one, but there's one small screw, so you might want to have a small one on hand. These little grabbers for your bulb are going to be really handy because it's kind of a tight spot, as you'll see. So if you have those, or maybe a set of forceps, that might help. 1/4-inch wrench will help with the hex spacers we have to move. And I always recommend you have a magnetic dish so you can gather up all your hardware. So to install, of course, we always recommend you turn the power off to your game, but the process is going to be, we're going to take this top plastic off, and there's a bottom plastic as well. We're going to remove some hardware from the bottom plastic and move the light board. There's a light board behind there. It's pretty well hidden. We're going to take that off and move that around as well. And then we're going to put the new hardware in its place. So we'll demonstrate that, but I always recommend you turn the power off to your game. So we'll start with that. All right, so first step, you're going to grab Phillips head screwdriver, and you're just going to remove these two screws right here. And that will remove your top plastic. Okay, top plastic comes off. Okay, now you see on this lower plastic here, you have two screws that hold it on. You also have this little light board here, and you have two hex spacers. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove these two screws to get some play in this plastic, so we can move it around. Now hang on to these screws. You're going to need these for the final part to install. Everything on this plastic here is going to get reused, so all the hardware you take off, make sure you hang on to it. Sorry, my hand's in the way. Okay, so now that those two screws are removed, this piece is a little loose. You have a very small screw that holds this flasher board on, so we're going to take that out as well. Be careful, it's tiny, so when you take it out, try not to lose it. You will reuse that as well. All right, so now this flasher board is loose. Now before we take these hex spacers off, you will have to get this flasher board out of this plastic. So you notice there's a rectangular hole underneath in the plastic here. So you kind of have to rotate the flasher board about 90 degrees, and you should, it'll go through that opening on an angle like that, see? So then you can just push it out, and now you're free. Now that you have that free, you're gonna take these two hex spacers off. There's screws that hold them on from the bottom. If they're snug, you can put your wrench on here. I've got them on here just fairly loose already, so I'm just gonna do that. Be careful, there's a washer underneath on the hex spacer side as well. And again, retain all this hardware. You're gonna need it for the new part. This one. And two. Okay, two washers, two screws, two spacers. Okay, so this piece is loose. Now, these two plastic pieces you will not need, so you can bag them up, put them away. The original two screws from the top plastic, those were the black ones. You don't need those again either, but you will still need these other ones you took off that held the plastic to this base. Okay, now before we put in the new piece, if we look in here, we'll see you've got a bulb down in here, and we're gonna have to remove that bulb if you have the lighted one, which most of you will, because we have to replace that with a different one. So this is when you come in with your little grabbers and grab that bulb. And it's a push down and twist. Out it goes. And then the new one should hopefully go in just as easy. Okay, there we go. Okay, and then you have a bulb in here that this piece will light up red just like the original. So just kind of position it so it's kind of aiming towards the area, and then this little pigtail is going to connect to the jet itself. Whoa! All right, so I didn't have it in all the way. That was fun. Always something. Again, this is kind of a tight spot, which is why I'm not doing it with my fingers. Get it that time. There we go. Okay, looks like it's in that time. Okay. All right, so now you're going to bring in whichever landing platform you've chosen. Now you'll notice my holes on here are not in the exact same location. The screw holes are in the same location here and here, but the hex spacer holes don't line up with what the original had, and that's for a reason that I'll show you in just a moment. So we're going to take your 2 hex spacers, screws from the bottom, and you're going to put them in these 2 holes right here. Put a washer on, thread on your hex spacer, and we'll snug them down from the bottom again. Now you notice on this version of the landing platform I have kind of a translucent red printed on the bottom here, and that will actually light up kind of like edge lighting when it's installed. The paved version, the concrete version, does not have that. Okay, now the reason for this, now that I have this installed, the reason I've designed it like this is because you'll see, here's your jet with the whole dust cloud. On the bottom of the dust cloud, I have 2 holes that I've designed into the cloud. And the whole idea here is that once we have this installed, this is going to slide right onto these hex spacers just like that to get installed. So it kind of snugly mounts on there without having to have screws showing. So it's kind of cool. All right, so now that we've got these hex spacers installed, your next step is you're going to come back here to install it. You can leave this little pigtail hanging out, and you can leave this flasher board hanging out like this as well, just so we can get to it later. And now as you can see, these screw holes line up, and you can put these screws back in right here. These are the same screws that held the original plastic in place. Okay, so now the landing platform is installed. All right, next step. We're going to bring in your jet. Now you notice on the side here, I have kind of a flat cutout section here, and this is to allow you to mount this light board on the side. So it's a little bit, you got to pull on it a little bit. There's some slack underneath the playfield there, so you want to pull that out so that you can install this here. I'm also going to hook up this pigtail while we're here, so let's do that first. See there we go. Okay, so see, I just hooked up the pigtail here, and then what you can do is you can actually tuck, there's enough of a gap there, you can tuck that pigtail down inside so it's out of the way. All right, and then we're going to take this light board and we're going to attach it right over here. You're going to use the original screw. Sorry. I have so many hands. All right, if you've got a magnetized tip on that screwdriver, that will hopefully be helpful. Okay, get my hole lined up. Almost. I would say this is probably the hardest part. Dealing with this tiny little screw. Okay, here we go. Okay, so that mounts the board on the back side out of sight. like that. And now your last step in the home stretch here. So now you just have to get these holes on the bottom here lined up with these two hex spacers and just push it down firmly, and it should sit right on there. You'll see there's also little notches here and here to hide most of these screws here, so it'll give it a nice clean look when it's installed. So when you go to install it, I recommend just kind of pinch it on the bottom here to kind of hold it all together. And oh, light just went off. There we go. And slide right on. Tricky to work around the ramp here, but there it goes. Okay, and now you're on. Now the last thing you want to do is just do some cleanup. There's wires that are sticking out here. Remember, you can push them underneath in that gap and just kind of feed them down around the back here. Push those wires down into the gap, because I intended to have you tuck the wires down into this. You see there's like a little V slot here in between the clouds, so I kind of want you to have the wires down in there, because then you won't see them. So if you kind of hold them down in here like this, you should be able to tuck the wires inside. I'm going to bring my screwdriver in here and help me tuck them in. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now the wires are tucked down behind, and they'll be out of sight from the player's perspective. Okay, so let's come back around the front here. Let's turn the game back on. Give it a minute to boot up. Let me pause while it boots up. All right, so game's booted up now, so you can see we've got nice light in the canopy and in the engine openings of your jet. You can also see, because of that, on this version of the landing platform, since I've got the translucent red on the bottom, you can see it's lit up with the red light from underneath, so it gives it a nice little edge lighting effect. And there you have it. So this is the X-Jet mod for Uncanny X-Men from Rocket City Pinball. If you have any questions, reach out, rocketcitypinball.com.